Hello, this is Chase Glenn from the Alliance for Full Acceptance, and we are live streaming a program here today for Trans Day of Visibility. We are going to get started here in just a bit. I'm going to give folks a moment to join us, and so just hold tight, and we will start here shortly. If you're watching us from home, feel free to like or interact with us on our post. We can see comments, or at least I can see comments on our side, and would love to know you're out there. So again, my name is Chase Glenn. I am the Executive Director of the Alliance for Full Acceptance. We are an LGBTQ advocacy organization based here in Charleston, South Carolina. And just so you know, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I've made videos in the past, but never done anything live. So I'm just going to own the fact that I'm nervous, but I think it's going to be fantastic. We have a great program for you today. I think we're going to have several guests join us here, members of the local transgender community who are willing to give their time to this and share some of their stories. And you know, part of the reason why Trans Day of Visibility is so powerful is because you get to see and meet and hear from trans folks who live this every day, and hearing their stories is so key to understanding the trans experience, the trans identity, and what it's really like for trans folks in the world. So less of me talking and more of this time that we have together. Just as a quick heads up, AFFA is trying something new here, doing this program, and we've got several others planned out already. Next week on April 8th, we are going to have a program called it's going to be about mindfulness and remaining sort of centered in the midst of kind of what's going on right now in the world and the uncertainty that we're all living with. And we will have Eric Sullivan from Proud Counseling here in the Charleston area, who is going to share with us some self-care tips, as well as Kanae Miller of Transformation Yoga, who's going to also share some thoughts around self-care and lead a guided meditation with the group, and we're excited about that. And then on April 15th, we're planning an Advocacy 101 session with Phil Ford, and you'll learn more about sort of the legislative process, especially here in the state of South Carolina, and how you can be an advocate for our community. And that's just the start. We've got lots of ideas about things and ways that we can interact with everyone, and so we're excited to see what's ahead. So anyway, again, my name is Chase Glenn. I'm the Executive Director of the Alliance for Full Acceptance. I use he and him pronouns, and I want to just jump right into this and allow our guests to come on now and join us. I'm going to make sure I'm doing all my technology here. I'm going to invite everyone to come on the screen. Everyone should be unmuted. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Awesome.
Hello.
It's nice seeing you all. I just realized I've got two vanities on the screen. I don't know how I did that. I'm just that
I mean,
good.
you can never go wrong with two
Double the
vanities.
pleasure.
Let's try that. There we are. One vanity and also a Greg. There we go. Sorry about that, Greg.
That's all right.
So if y'all don't mind, let's just take a moment and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your pronouns, and then we'll get started from there. Vanity, you can go first.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Vanity Deterville. I am a native of Charleston, South Carolina. She, her, hers pronouns. I am sitting currently as the Director of Diversity for Charleston Pride. I am a co-facilitator for the Transformative Teaching Collective. And right now, the work as it pertains to my curriculum at the College of Charleston is serving as a senior undergraduate assistant at the Avery Research Center for African American History and Culture. So that's just a little bit about me.
CNN lately. So.
Oh, stop. Yes, I have been on an internationally syndicated network. I've had the proud opportunity of speaking for their inaugural Pulse of the People panel. But I owe that opportunity and those graces to Tamika Gatson with Black Voters Matter.
That's awesome. Great. Shout out to Tamika. Greg, go ahead.
How you doing? I'm Greg Green, he, him, his pronouns. I'm on the board for the Harriet Hancock Center here in Columbia, South Carolina. And I also have a Transgender Awareness Alliance support group that I run. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Still a little graduate, shout out to Charleston. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Leanne, you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Leland. I'm a resident of Felonville, co-facilitator of the Charleston area transgender. I work at the Mount Pleasant Costco, and you know, it feels like to be able to touch my face at home without gloves or worrying about how to scratch my nose. If I do go mute, it's because we have a few dogs here, and there may be a siren on the highway, and hear a group howl. Trust me.
That's all right. How many? You said a few dogs, Leanne. Let's be real. How many dogs do you have currently?
That's hilarious.
President still have too many. No, we have 16 dogs, a parrot, and 2 pet possums.
I was waiting for the possum.
16.
That's amazing.
We just got a Inky.
A what? Sorry, I missed that.
We just got a cat named Inky.
Oh, that's so sweet. Leanne and her wife Cindy are amazing animal lovers and rescuers, and so that's, 2 possums. That says it all. So, Sunshine, tell us more about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I am Sunshine Bella G. I am a native of Goose Creek, South Carolina. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the owner of Celebrity Image Studio, and I am an author, life influencer, and empowerment speaker, and I'm excited to be a part of this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm still learning sort of the interface here. Every once in a while, like, multiple people are showing up, so I'm going to ask, if you are watching on Facebook, have there been moments where you've seen multiple people on the screen more than once? Because if that's the case, this is a learning curve. I'm learning as I go, so forgive me. But obviously, if someone shows up more than once, then they're extra special, and we just want to show them extra love today. So, thank y'all so much for joining us again. And I think it probably makes sense for us to at least just start with, let's keep it real. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. I know a lot of folks are dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety. I know for myself, having trouble sleeping, and I just want to check in with folks and see how you're doing. And that might be related to being trans, but it might just be related to being human and going through this together. We're all in this together. So feel free to just speak up. Whoever would like to chime in. How are things going in your world?
I have been tested with this isolation that we've been going through. It's been a test of faith. It's been a test of, I guess, just overall holding on. I've been dealing with a cough for the past 3 weeks. I've been telling everybody the same spiel because it's just been the most consistent. And amid all of the COVID-19 news, they've been telling folks who have developed a cough or maintained a cough to stay isolated. And so it's difficult staying isolated while needing medical attention and social distancing. So it has been a true test, not only on the health aspect, but like yourself, I have lost sleep a lot. I felt like my sleeping schedule and productivity schedule has been out of whack. And I'm finding it a little bit more hard to muster the motivation to get my work done. As of now, the last portion of the last semester of my undergraduate career has been moved completely online. My graduation is no longer So these things are kind of bittersweet. In relation to me ending this chapter of my life, if you were to ask me how I thought the last semester of my college career would go, I would probably never have been able to predict this. So health-wise, school-wise, and then personally, those who have side gigs or self-contracted in terms of supplemental incomes are being hit very hard right now. Not only if you're laid off from your main means of sustenance, but, you know, as a part-time Lyft and Uber driver right now, I just don't find it safe to transport anyone in the car, being as I don't have access to like the sanitation materials that I need from the grocery store, because every time I go there, they're depleted, right? So there are many trickle-down effects to many aspects of my life that this has been affecting, but I've been trying to use the time as much as possible to be a little bit more introspective.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thanks for that, Vanity. Who else? Anyone else have any? Tell us how you are. Check in with us.
I think I am luckier than most, but I still have a job. I'm considered an essential employee working at Costco. I go in it every day, also dealing with closing out sisters' apartments, packing everything up. So I'm staying very, very busy. I have a job and I have an income. Many people who don't. They're at home. They're stuck. They can't get out. And then when I see the PSAs on TV and they say, who is at risk? They say people over 65 that's the first thing they mention. I go, yay, I'm number one. But you do what you have to.
Yeah, that's right.
People are scared. People are very scared right now. And I see it in the faces of the people at Costco. Very few are bringing their kids with them when they shop. Their kids stay at home, which I think is wonderful. And people are trying to maintain distances. It's just everybody's on edge.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Leanne. Anyone else want to share your experiences? What's going on right now?
So far, like mentally, I'm okay. Financially, it's been tough. As an entrepreneur, working in the beauty industry, I'm sure my clients may beg to differ, but the beauty industry is not an essential business. So right now, it's been tough because clients haven't been coming to to get the services they would normally get, just because you have to be careful. Even though I have a private studio, but people just are not getting out. So having to deal with that and still having the responsibilities of paying rent and, utilities, that type of thing, it's been pretty tough. In the beginning, I didn't think it was going to hit me as bad, but we are now in the midst of a reset. Like I said, everyone, we're all now on the same playing field, no matter your race, color, your wealth. Like, we are all on the same playing field, and it's affecting us all. So that's the only thing that I'm dealing with right now, is just trying to hold out for whatever the government is going to decide to do as far as helping small business. That's my main concern right now, and so that I can survive every day, and get the things that I need to get, the things that I need to purchase, because this is my only source of income, and right now it's pretty much at a standstill. So it's like what to do.
Yeah, it's hard. It's definitely hard.
Greg, did I see you're gonna add something in there?
Yeah, so for me, it's definitely been difficult. Not so much in the not working aspect of it, simply because I work at a restaurant. The restaurant shut down, but I'm also a caregiver for my mother-in-law, and so that becomes difficult when you're in the house with someone who has Alzheimer's, who is ready to leave or go home at any given moment, and we can't leave anyway. So it's been helpful because we can turn the news on and say, look, nobody can leave. And it's like, oh, okay, I have to stay here with you also. That helps. But it's also hard when, we need to go out, get fresh air and kind of regroup, because that type of situation doesn't do well with just sitting still in the house, So that has been our hardest thing here in our home is, okay, how do we explain? And it's not just watch the news and we remember. This is, short-term memory's gone. So every 15 minutes we have to explain why we can't go anywhere, why we're not going to the programs we usually take her to, and the different types of caregiver programs that we go to. So that has definitely been a little trying for us, but we're pushing through.
Absolutely. Yeah, everyone, what y'all shared is it's a lot of people are having similar experiences, but then each of us obviously has our own unique sort of spin on that, right? We're hearing a lot of the same sort of stories. People who are struggling, like you said, entrepreneurs, business owners, people who rely on interacting with folks directly, whether it's Uber, Lyft, and then also folks like Leanne who are going to work every day at Costco and around lots of people. And then also Greg, like taking care of helping be a caretaker for someone is a whole other level of responsibility and stress. And so thank you all so much for sharing those experiences. And so let's just jump into this. We're talking about Trans Day of Visibility. I should have said this at the beginning. I think I always forget. I think people just assume or know already, but I'm transgender. I'm a trans man, and so I said to folks, I may jump in and share some of my own personal experiences today as well, but this is really about the folks that we invited to join us. So Trans Day of Visibility. Why do you think?
Chase, not to interrupt you,
yes.
I'm seeing that folks are saying that your volume is low.
Oh, my volume. Thank you. Oh, thank you for saying that. I'm glad someone is monitoring this.
Yeah, they're saying it's the hard time hearing the host.
Let's see here. Is that any better? Or should I move to...
I'm not sure what to do about that.
Let's see what they say.
Any?
Can you all hear Chase better?
Barely hear the host. Can anyone else? I see a couple.
Much better. They said much better.
Okay, awesome. And I'll try to be louder. Thank you. Thanks for the heads up, Vanity.
No problem.
I'm glad someone's monitoring the comments. So, Trans Day of Visibility. Why is it important? Why do we have a day like today? Anyone can jump in.
Why do we have a day like Trans Day of Visibility? Well, because I think oftentimes we talk about our existence in terms of theory, and having dealt with public policy also, I feel like we conceptualize different things as far as how we can solve issues and how we can better our lives theoretically, but we don't know how to put that into practical terms. And so Trans Day of Visibility for me allows the faces of those issues to be matched with the theory that people are trying to better themselves and to educate themselves with. We have an age range on this panel right now that spans decades, and our experiences are going to be vastly different, but we're still going to have very important similarities in the walk that we have through living as a transgender individual. Also, any day that deals with trans remembrance or visibility, I treat the same. So Trans Day of Remembrance and Visibility, I kind of go into with the same energy, just because I know what it takes sometimes to get up out of bed and just be. I'm pretty sure that we all deal with a accumulation of many microaggressions that compound on top of us each and every day, and that turns into something that we have to channel and use for ourselves to keep pressing on. So when I think about the Denalis that were murdered, and when I think about my other sisters, and when I think about the countless numbers of people, when I think about my conversations with discreet men, when I think about just enlightening people as to what it means to be me, continuously, I find purpose in days like Trans Day of Visibility, because genuinely there are a lot of people out there still trying to seek knowledge as to what it means to be us. And so here are the faces to match those expressions.
Wow. Thank you, Vanity. Who else has something to add?
Well, about 8 years ago, there were about 9% of the American public knew or worked with somebody who was trans. That figure is now up in the 20%. If people don't know us, the myths win. There are tons of myths out there about transgender people, a lot of misconceptions. But when people get to know us, they actually get to understand. It's all about understanding. We have members of the support group who aren't out. They're still in the closet. They don't even come to meetings. I just talk to them on Messenger because of fear of rejection. That's our biggest problem is that people don't understand. So we come out, we lose jobs, we lose family, we lose friends. But this is who we are. You know, I I hid in the closet for over 5 decades. That's a long time, but I'm still the same person that I was then. It's just that I'm being honest with people about who I was on the inside, who I am on the. That's all we want is a chance to live, just like everybody else.
That's great.
That's it.
To piggyback off of what piggyback off of what Leanne and Vanity has said, I guess I'm the baby in the group as far as my transition. My anniversary is going to be next month on the 7th, me starting HRT. And I think today is important because, like I said, just me sharing my truth and embracing who I am, and having the label trans. For me, I didn't know trans people growing up. I didn't see trans people. I wasn't around any LGBT people, so I really didn't know where I fit. It took me years. I'm 33 years old now, and I'm just now comfortable saying, okay, I am a trans woman of color. And having days like today makes it real for everyone around me. It lets them know that we are real people. Like, this is like, I had a large following before I put the trans stamp on myself. But now it's like, okay, people are having to embrace me as a trans woman now. So they're like, okay, well, I know that you're a real person. So now they're being exposed to a different level of who I am. And so today, days like today are important so that people can know, okay, you are a real person. You are still the same person that I was in love with, or that I loved before, that I supported before. It's just, I think it just makes it real. It just really makes it a real thing for people. Trans people are most often known for like beauty and just for their sexuality, but days like today, it lets them know that we are intelligent. Some of us are college educated. Some of us are entrepreneurs. We're just everyday people like anyone else, and we just want to be accepted, and we're going to continue until we are accepted by everyone.
Amazing.
This, to me, Trans Day of Visibility is about acceptance and also about respect. Like Sunshine said, we want you to accept us, but for those who can't find that, just respect us as a people, as a human beings that we are. Respect us in whatever it is that we're doing, and don't bother us. Don't cause us any harm. Allow us to be ourselves. Trans Day of Visibility, to me, is also a way for those of us who are safe enough to be out, to be visible, that we can do so. And so those
very important
that come after us don't have to wait. Like Leanne, you don't have to wait decades to finally be able to present the way you want to present. Trans Day visibility is not just about the binary. That's another thing. The trans spectrum is so wide. All right, there are trans men like myself who transition from female to male. There are trans women who transition from male to female, and then you have a lot of folks in between because gender is fluid. And accepting that and knowing that, and for those folks who have been visible today, who are sharing your stories out there today, I want to say thank you as well, because I know that there are many people who don't understand the binary of transness, let alone the non-binary of transness. So thank you for sharing your visibility and your stories as well.
That's awesome. I think that's actually a really great point, Greg, as far as what you made about um, not everyone can be out, not everyone can be visible. Does anyone else want to speak to that and sort of the privilege that some of us have, that we're able to navigate this world in a way that is safe in the midst of our trans identity? I think I always felt a little, and I'm just going to put it out there, I think I always have felt a little, sort of had mixed feelings about days like Coming Out Day, because it's not everyone can come out. Not everyone is in a safe place where they can be out and be themselves. Yes, there's incredible power in being out. Yes, it's important that people are able to put faces and names with people who are gay, and trans and pan and bi and all those different identities and orientations. But it also comes at a level, there's sort of an assumption there that everyone can be out, and maybe that's not actually true. Does anyone else want to speak
I
to that?
think it's I think it's important to recognize that, at least in my own experience, and I'm sure maybe someone else has experienced this also, but it seems as though days like Coming Out Day are tethered to those that are cisgendered. Um, and when we think about what coming out means, it's a little bit more of a step forward when you identify as trans after having suppressed that identity than just saying you may be attracted to the same sex. Um, it oftentimes it's popularized that it's way more accepting for, or way more likely for parents to accept a child as coming out as gay than as transitioning into a different gender. I feel like there's also echelons within our own community. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have seen historically white cisgender men pretty much derail the efforts that have been on the backs of queer people of color. And to this day, we have seen pride movements across the nation that have been largely whitewashed to the point where we have to create Black pride movements. And so just recognizing the difference in experience, the difference in severity of punishment for coming out as opposed to disclosing that one is wishing to be trans, and also the echelons within the LGBT community as they mirror those in the larger society as well.
Mm. Yeah. Wow. That's anyone else want to add to that?
I think she said it all.
I thought I saw Greg move into his microphone, so I was giving him a moment.
I was just thinking about it, but I mean that everything that she
Yeah,
said,
that,
it's so true. And then when you talk about the privilege levels within our community, I speak on it often because it's just how I feel in my heart. Is that for the most part, a lot of trans men have the societal aspect a little bit easier, and I feel that way because no matter how, I'm going to use the word insecure. No matter how insecure I may feel going into a place, I know that the place sees me as a man at this point in my transition. Earlier in my transition, yeah, there was a lot of question. There was like, I wonder, I'm not sure. But even then, when you're talking about society, again, this idea of a lesbian is still looked at as being on a different level than the idea of a gay man. And
Exactly.
so now, if any piece of feminism comes out in me, it's like, oh, are you gay? And I'm just like, you have no idea what my story is. The music is blasting. Yes, it's Beyonce. I'm having a good time. Like leave me alone.
Period.
So it's so weird, those levels that we have. And I also would say, and I say this often too, I find it harder being black than trans in the state of South Carolina. A lot of folks ask about how is transitioning in South Carolina? Why did you stay home and all of this? And it's like, overall, I don't get directly disrespected about being trans other than people who know me, right? And then they feel that they can say whatever they want. It means nothing to me. I brush it off. But being black in South Carolina, I can't put that away. I can't mask that. And so that, to me, at least in our state, is just a little bit harder to deal with. But I understand to a certain extent. Again, that's where I feel like different levels um, of just how things are accepted.
That's really interesting, and I mean, and makes sense. Do you feel like passing, this concept of passing, for people who don't know, is when a trans person is able to be basically clocked as either trans, or if they are able to go sort of under the radar or stealth and not be read as trans, just in regular day-to-day interactions. Do you feel like whether or not someone passes also contributes to that? I mean, Greg, not to put you on the spot, but to sort of dig into that even further about your identity as a Black man, but you're also as a trans man, and passing versus not passing.
And it's definitely not a term that I care for, but I do understand it. And I do think passing is relevant, but it's also in under whose eyes, right? So depending on where I go, if I'm going to the store early in my transition, going to the store, I may get looks, but it wasn't really a big issue. Previously, I worked in law enforcement. There were people who would say, officer, sir, ma'am, I'm not sure what to say. I'm like, officer is fine. You know, why are we trying to define how to, call someone or whatnot? I think that this idea of passing, which again, I'm going to go hit the cultural route, is not a new concept. Way, way back in the day, way, way back when, very, very light skinned Black people who could pass as white were seen to have things a little bit easier. And so I think the world has understood easy is everybody's opinion is easy, right? Whatever you think easy is. Is it easier because I can pass now? Certain things are, most definitely. But when you have things that you need to speak up on, certain maybe doctor visits or things that you need to speak up on. If I go to one doctor just because, I have migraines versus going to a doctor who's doing a full physical exam, I pass. Do I need to tell the migraine doctor that I'm trans? It may be important. It may have something to do with why I'm having headaches, but I don't know whether I'm in the right headspace personally to tell that person that. So I mean, that's the nuances of trans life, of deciding when you tell certain people certain things.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. Around the conversation of safety. So AFFA did a community needs assessment survey we released this past year, and there was a section on public safety, and we talked about people feeling whether or not they feel safe in our community. And we had over 1,400 respondents in the survey, and this was in the Charleston Tri-County area. So this was Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester counties. And out of over 1,400 respondents, 205 folks actually said that they had been attacked on the street before. And then the other one that I thought was also really sort of, in some ways, even more sort of jarring to me, that was like over a third of the people who responded said they didn't feel like they could show affection in public with their partners or loved ones. And whenever I share that information out in the community, LGBTQ plus folks are kind of like, yeah, what do you're not, I mean, that's like the experience of a lot of folks. So it's not that surprising to them. But when I tell that, to people who identify as straight and or cisgender, they are shocked by that. Like, whoa, what? You feel like you can't show affection in public? So do y'all have anything to share as far as feelings of safety in the community? Anything you'd be willing to share, ways that you feel safe or don't feel safe, ways that we could improve that for the community as a whole?
Sorry, Leanne, go ahead. No, you go.
It's been my experience that for some reason, the straight world feels that if they know we're trans, then they can ask questions that they would not ask of anybody else. I have been groped to see if my breasts will feel. They are, by the way, but you don't do that to somebody. why invade somebody's personal space? And when I first came out, I was scared to hold my wife's hand walking down the street because of the stares we'd get. But then it dawned on me, I don't pass. People are going to stare anyway. So I just go ahead and do it. My age helps because it is true that the older you get, the less of a damn you give. But you know,
Rightfully so.
yeah.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
Right, but I've got to be out. I've got to be me. So if if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
Anyone else have anything to add to that?
I think that a lot of my security in the past couple of years has come from my ability to speak up and against in whatever fashion. Um, After the memorial we had for Denali, I came into contact with a lot of men who are either discreet or, as they term it, down low, um, that had been familiar with Denali. And I found myself re educating and continued to instill in them the ways in which she should be addressed, respected, even in her passing. So there have been many times when um, speaking has led to a little bit more respect, at least on my part, from communities that I typically haven't and historically haven't gotten respect from. I think just showing comfort with myself, my own image, loving on myself a little bit more, and really working hard within my own personal goals in school and at home has shown people that, yeah, hey, back to what Sunshine says, we're productive individuals, we're upstanding citizens. We aren't the derelicts of society. So I just feel like having worked within my work and all aspects of my life and speaking up in the ways in which I know how to, speaking for, advocating for, speaking against hate, has helped me gain a little bit more respect in some communities. Um, Surprisingly to some, most of the pushback that I've received has come from my Black community. And so when I first transitioned, I felt like I was the safest or had more acceptance among those who did not look like me. And I found very strong contention with that because there's no reason why I should be someone who's pro queer and pro POC and not be able to harness the support of the community from which I originally came. So the more I speak, the more I educate, the more I have those difficult conversations with people who don't know about public forum discussions like this, who are still battling with their own identity or sexuality, the more I think I can harness a little bit more respect from that community.
Anyone have anything else to add to that? We're getting some great love and comments here on Facebook, and want to encourage folks who are following along at home. Feel free to comment, ask questions if you'd like. I'm still learning the platform myself, to be totally honest. So as we're going here, I feel like I'm getting my feet underneath me. But if you have any questions, try to see if we can relay those to the group. And if you have any love or comments to share, I will also try to put those on the screen so folks can see them and we can highlight the support that you're giving the community, because that's also really powerful and important. So as we continue on here, we've already talked about this some, and to some extent, whenever I ask the question, what do you wish people understood about you or about trans people in general? And I ask this question, it's a common sort of question to ask, and usually the answer is, we're just like everyone else. Like there's nothing, I'm just like everyone else. So now that I've already set that up, you can say we're just like everyone else if that's what your answer is, but also want to give you opportunity. Is there anything that you would like to share as far as, what you feel like, misconceptions about trans people, or ways that you wish maybe you were understood, differently, or if there's, I don't know. I'm leaving that open-ended as far as what you would like to share.
For me, I would like, just because, again, me being trans is new to myself as well as my following. And I think that it's important that people know that being trans and being a drag queen are two completely different things. People would ask, I mean, and I
Ooh,
have plenty of
that was a
drag
big
sisters,
one. My
and,
God.
and you know, so they would ask me, and I'm like, and I said, well, I'm not offended by your question, but I want you to understand that this for me is not a costume. Um, so yes, I'm made up now. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm still in the beginning phases of my transition. So out of makeup, I still look, like a man. So it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge for me, but I want people to understand that even through my transition, that we are people. We are more than just beautiful faces, beautiful bodies. We're more than just sex. Being trans is not just about, has nothing to do, honestly, with what you do in the bedroom. Because people assume, even like with the situation with Dwayne Wade and his daughter, and I'm grateful that
Yes.
they are strong enough
Yes,
to hold that
yes, yes.
position. But what I heard a lot of people say was that, what is he thinking? What is she thinking about sex? And I'm like, being trans has nothing to do with you liking another individual. It's more so about you embracing who you are inside. I am honored and I'm happy to be able to say that I'm a woman now. When I was growing up, I was taught, and it was ingrained in me, that you are not a girl, you are not a female. So before I came out as trans, that's what I would be into. My family, my friends, don't call me that. And so now they're like, okay, well, now they're having to embrace me. Now I'm like, okay, now that I'm comfortable with me, and now that I'm accepting me, I need you to accept and respect who I am as a woman, as an individual, not as a sexual being, not as, oh, you're pretty, so because you're pretty or you're more attractive, a lot of times people don't accept you if you're not passable, or if you're not what they quote consider attractive, then it's hard for them to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. There's a couple questions that I don't mind answering. I saw just come up. For me, as far as what age did I know, it kind of goes back to the idea of knowing the terminology. I didn't know the terminology, but I can say for me, the furthest back I can remember is age 5. Do I think there's a certain age is too young? I don't. And here's why I say that. I think if we start embracing our children and the things that they want to do and explore with, it becomes less taboo. And it's not going to be something, you have my son. I took him to get a haircut in a salon one day in the mall. I don't know why. That's where we were. And then as we were walking out, he saw fingernail polish and said, "I want to paint my nails." And I was like, "You want to paint your nails?" I didn't take it any further than he wanted color on his fingernails. And he picked, I said, "What color would you pick?" And that's the one he picked. And I said, "Let's do one nail on each hand." And he just thought it was the coolest thing. And he loves chapstick. Did I go into this, oh no, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? No, he had fun. We went to the mall. We had our day together. That was it. He didn't care. I didn't make a big deal out of it. He didn't. So I don't necessarily think an age is too young. Allow children to safely explore who they are. If they want to be Superman this year, Wonder Woman next year they're Catwoman. I mean, who knows? Just let it be. And as far as advice to parents, just accept your children. When you accept your children, when you have a child, and my son is my son out of a chosen family situation, but that is my son. When you have children and you accept that role as a parent, that's unconditional love. Even if you don't understand, even if you don't get it, whatever your child decides to be into, then you learn about it enough to be into it with them. That's my opinion as a parent as well. Whatever you want to be in. When he was into the Pokemon, I tried very hard to learn about the Pokemon. I don't get it, but we got cards. When he changed it and he wanted to do other stuff, then I got into that. I didn't get it, but we played the games. Okay, so just be supportive, because what can happen is your child may not find support at home, then they're going to go somewhere else to find that support, and that might not be good support. That might be support on a term. That might be conditional love. You can stay here if you do these things. You can stay here if you bring me these things, if you sell these things. You don't want that to be the avenue that your child has to take when all you have to do is love your child, allow them to come with you with anything. So I'm just answering those questions. I don't know what else I was going to say. One thing I kind of taking notes because it's me. All transgender people are not activists, are not speakers, are not into telling their story. Mm-hmm. If you know someone is trans and you have been privileged with that knowledge, it is not your duty, it is not your duty to ask further questions, and it is not their duty to disclose any more information. There are enough organizations between AFFA and what all of us do. There's enough organizations that if you want to educate yourself, you can do so by those willing to share their story and to educate you. Do not ask every trans person every trans question you possibly have. And the phrase, "oh, I couldn't tell," is not a compliment. I repeat, the phrase, "oh, I couldn't tell," is not a compliment. And I'm done.
My, you said a word just now. I kind of want to answer Shaniqua's question just because I think it's a major point as to why I speak the way I do. So I actually knew that I wanted to live my life differently at age 8, and is when I first vocalized it to anyone in my family. And I was initially granted support of the decision or of that statement by my maternal grandmother. But I was also made to keep the secret from the men in my family for fear of what they might do. So to those people who often question, how does a child know? We typically know when we're younger. We typically have a sense of if something feels off or if the presentation we're made to present to the larger society doesn't or isn't congruent with what we feel inside. There are many indigenous practices as far as Native Americans go in recognizing the different genders as well as two spirits to raise children all up on an even playing field. And then once they get a certain age, to ask them which way they choose to represent. And then you have the rightful coming of age ceremony that corresponds with that expression. I feel like if we try to neutralize our parenting so that it's not so gendered, so very heavily gendered, and all that we do, advertisements, toys, clothes, food, extracurricular, hygiene, maintenance, emotions. I just feel like if we degender the way in which we raise our children, you can still care for them and train them up in the right way, in a supportive way that doesn't shape their expression for them. Allow them to make that decision for themselves. Because if you don't, then you'll grow up scorning your parent and maybe even excommunicating them. And those are the worst case scenarios, but some of us have gone through the separation of the nuclear family simply because we were finally allowed to express ourselves in a way that was suppressed for the majority of our life. It's not anything new, but it is more times than not suppressed through an entire lifetime.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I want to share just my personal sort of story as far as when I began to understand myself as being trans. I didn't have the language for it. We didn't have the internet. I'm old. I grew up in the 80s, and when I was about 5 or 6 years old, I remember very distinctly for the first time. For me, it was I felt uncomfortable going into the girls' restroom in public. I just didn't. That just felt bad to me. It gave me a lot of anxiety. I didn't know why. I didn't have the words for that. But I can tell you that all the way from elementary school through high school, I did not once use the public restroom at school because of that anxiety. What did that mean? That meant I was very careful about how much I drank. I didn't consume a lot of food or water during the day because I was nervous that I would have to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And that I carried that into my adult life. I still have
Yes.
anxiety around the public restroom, and
Yes.
going in. I mean, I don't necessarily, people don't look at me weird when I go in the men's restroom now, but I'm still nervous about it. I still think, oh gosh, what if they see my feet are pointing a different direction? And is
Yep.
this going to be the time that I get called out and I have to say something? So, I mean, even just talking about it, I feel anxious talking about it. So that, and that is just like one little
Yeah.
part of this experience. And,
Right.
and that sort of, that anxiety that I carry with me, and just something that most cis people don't even think about at all.
Yep.
Going into the restroom and where you're going to go to the bathroom and where it's going to be safe and you're going to feel most safe. So I don't want to. We got a couple questions here. Is this being recorded? It is being recorded. So this will be accessible on our Facebook page afterwards, and also we're going to upload it to YouTube for those folks who don't have Facebook, because apparently those people exist. Who knew? Um, I wanted to touch on a sort of a current event. You may have heard yesterday in Idaho, governor signed 2 bills into law. A bill that would prohibit trans folks from changing their gender marker on their birth certificates, and then a bill that bans trans student athletes from playing sports that align with their gender identity. I wanted to give you all an opportunity to respond to that and get your thoughts.
Well, we're in the midst of a public health crisis, not just in this country, but in the world. And all they can do is come after us. These were the last 2 bills the legislature in Idaho passed. They did not pass one bill addressing COVID-19. None. But they came after us. Why? Because it's an election year and they're pandering to their base.
Right.
I won't say every, but the majority of health professionals will tell you that trans people are people. And if Idaho did not learn from what happened in Texas with the trans male wrestler who won the women's championship 2 years in a row because they would not let him compete against the man like he wanted to, well, that's going to happen again. And it's going to happen in Idaho. And they'll cry about that. And it's always the trans women they come after, never the trans men.
Yeah,
I
I've noticed
totally
that
agree with that. Go ahead.
yeah, it's I noticed that legislation a lot of times are heavily targeting those that are trans femme presenting. For whatever reason, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's because the violence that is against trans women is a lot of times more heavily sensationalized, to the point where it may eclipse the fact that there are trans men within our community. And so attention is consistently drawn towards trans women, period. So when you have popularized media and news around the world about the deaths of trans women of color, then of course legislation is going to be drafted, again, focusing towards that sub-demographic, because I feel as though they believe it will act as a deterrent for this kind of violence even happening anyway. However, all that will lead people to do are find unhealthy and unregulated ways in order to transition. Right now, we have policy introduced to the South Carolina State Legislature, which would make it illegal for any trans individual or trans identifying person to even so much as seek resources for counseling before the age of 18. I think a lot of people think that being trans is immediately surgical cosmetic procedures. There are so many aspects to being a trans person that don't even include surgery. It can be literally just changing your dress, presentation, hairstyle, makeup, just so many things about personally as opposed to cosmetically that can be changed that align with what trans means. I think we oftentimes ascribe trans people to their genitalia very heavily down to the legislative standpoint. And you're right. At this current time right now, there isn't anything else that legislation served the purpose of besides intimidation and a pander to their base. So right now, that's why I'm saying it's really important to get involved with our state legislators and impact that kind of change and speak to them. They work for us. And so, we have legislation to be on the lookout for in South Carolina right now that we have to work against so that kind of thing doesn't happen. But I agree wholeheartedly with Leanne as the purpose of why they did that. We have other pressing issues right now. So there's no reason that legislation should have superseded the pandemic that we're in right now.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of the main things that I like to do, the way that my Transgender Awareness Alliance helps people, is by getting your document changed. So the way I see it, because I try to think logically, if you get whatever documentation you need to get your birth certificate, your ID, and everything changed, then when you're going to deal with this athletic concept, which I'm no athlete, I am a band geek, but when you're going to deal with the athletics side of things and all of your documents are changed to be who you are, then how can you now say that that's a team I can't play for? So what they did was block you getting your paperwork changed and you playing on the team. So you have given me you're saying that I don't have the right to play. So now we're talking about this is a different legal issue now, right? Because you're blocking me from playing a sport. I can't play this way or that. What do you want me to do? Right. So it's a lot, and it really bothers me because when you go through the channels to get all your documentation changed, you should be allowed, therefore, the rights and access of whatever that documentation now states. And the problem is so many states don't have, including our very own South Carolina, don't have steps to take to change your gender marker. Many of us have found ways and have changed our gender marker, but there's no specific paperwork or documentation saying this is what you have to have and what you have to do. And
yeah,
so
it's been
that's a whole
organizations
nother
have
problem.
to compile that on our own. You're right. We don't have like a state channeled process on how to do that.
And it's very expensive to have your gender marker changed. You can do it yourself, but that's very risky. Even with an attorney, there's no assurance that the judge will rule your way. Basically,
Exactly.
at the whim of the judge.
Yep.
Well, thank you all so much again for joining us. I want to give you an opportunity here. We're going to wrap up shortly to send a message to young trans folks who are out there who are just beginning to make their way through this process and figuring out who they are. And, we talked about it, these two bills, the bills that have been introduced in South Carolina legislature. This is a scary time for trans folks in general, and specifically trans youth who are incredibly vulnerable. If you could send a message out to trans youth today, what would you say to them?
We have your back. We are here for you. It doesn't matter where you live, what state. Every state has an organization that can help you. You have the internet, use it. And remember, you are special and you are beautiful. Don't ever forget that.
That's it. That was it.
I'll say find your tribe. That's going to be the most important thing in this process, to stay sane at very least. If you're dependent on someone else's security to be stable, whether you can risk losing that right now or later in your life, if becoming a trans person is as pressing of an issue as I might think it to be in some of your young lives, at some point in your life, you will have to distance yourself from that security in order to establish your own. There's no way you can healthily go through it while under the rule of someone else that doesn't see eye to eye on how you identify. Find your tribe. It's going to be difficult in the beginning, but it doesn't have to be difficult your entire life.
All right. Just piggyback off what Vanity said. Yes, finding your tribe is very important. And also, to piggyback what Leanne said, we are here for you. We are history makers. Like we now are working hard, just like someone before me had to work hard so that I can come out and be who I am. So just know that we are here for you, and like I said, we have social media. Reach out on social media. If there's someone that you see and you don't have people that's in your inner circle that you can talk to, reach out to us. And get it out, get those thoughts out. Do not suppress them, because it's really hard when you're feeling like you don't have a voice and you feel like you don't have anyone to talk to. We all are here. If you need to reach out, you can reach out to myself, Vandy, anyone that's on this line. Reach out to us and express how it is that you're feeling. That is important. But again, we are working hard so that as you do grow up and you do come up, things are a lot easier for you.
And I just want to add, stay true to yourself, regardless of what you go through. As times get harder and as your individual process gets harder, stay true to yourself. One of the things I'm always asked is, do you regret it? No, I don't. I lost my job. I lost my partner. I almost lost my house. I lost my car. I lost a lot. And I do it again because I'm happy with who I am today. And that struggle that I went through, I went through to make me a better person. So always stay true to yourself.
Wow. Powerful. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for opening yourself, your story, your life to us in this moment, and sharing that with us. This sort of authenticity is beautiful and powerful, and I'm so grateful for all of y'all who are here with us today. Again, this is Chase Glenn. I'm the Executive Director of the Alliance for Full Acceptance, and this was our first try. I think we survived, guys. I think it was good.
I think so.
So we're going to do this again on April 8th. We have our next program, and it's about maintaining mindfulness and remaining centered amidst all of this sort of uncertainty that we're living with right now. We have, again, Eric Sullivan from Proud Counseling will be joining us, along with Kanae Miller from Transformation Yoga, and that'll be at 12 o'clock noon next week on April 8th. I believe that's, is that a Tuesday or a Wednesday? Someone know this off the top of their head? I don't know, but it's coming up next week on April 8th. And then the next week on the 15th, we'll also have a program around advocacy and learning to be an advocate here in our community. So thank you all for joining us. This will be available on our Facebook page later, and also we'll be uploading it to YouTube for those who don't have access to that. If you are wanting to stay in touch with AFFA and what we're doing, feel free to send us any messages, any communication to info@affa-sc.org. You can message us here on Facebook, comment below, and thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to everyone who observed and watched us as well. We survived. We did it. Thank you all so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.